another item that we talk about here quite a bit is the overtime rules in the NFL. It's now time to start putting things on the table for the ownership of the NFL to look at if they want to change those rules. The owners' meeting, the annual meeting, as they call it in the NFL, amongst the membership, which is what they call the owners of the NFL, is coming up later on this month at the Breakers Hotel. Breakers. And so in Florida, Florida. So they're coming, it's coming. And we all know what happened in the playoffs. Bills blow the lead with 13 seconds to go. And then overtime is forced. They don't get the ball, and they're on their heels, and the Chiefs win. And Josh Allen, in a dynamic game for the ages, doesn't get to touch the ball, and that's a damn shame. And everybody spent the entire week, except us, screaming and yelling about how unfair it is. You can't have a game decided by a coin flip, even though the next week in the same stadium, the Chiefs forced overtime, had overtime forced, despite winning a game that they were winning by 18 points, get the ball first, win the coin toss, and Cincinnati picks off Patrick Mahomes, stops Mahomes, and then wins the game themselves.
Thank God.
The next week, chef's kiss and timing for people like us saying don't change anything, except we said change the rule based on the number of people that called this show. We workshopped it, we spitballed it, because we're not that type of program that says screams and yells and rants without offering our own alternative. One of the callers called in. The one idea that we really liked is attaching possession in overtime to the opening coin toss. So removing the randomness of a second coin toss from deciding who gets the ball to start overtime.
Predetermined.
By, folding it into the coin toss to open the game.
Right.
You win the coin toss to open the game. You defer, which a lot of teams do because they like getting the ball to start the second half, or their defense is a strong part of their team, putting the defense out first, stopping the other team's offense, and getting the ball to start the second half. And you can then, maybe if you're so fortunate, score on either side of halftime and take over a game, or come back in a game in which you need those possessions back to back. And teams like having that in their back pocket. However, if you do that, you not only give the ball to your opponent to start the game, you are saying to your opponent, you get to start the game in overtime. And that way, you can figure out who gets the ball to start overtime. And in so doing, you can have both teams touch the football in overtime. Because if you just go ahead and say both teams got to touch the football in overtime, and you win the coin toss to start overtime, you're now going to defer. I'd like to know how many points I have to score in order to keep the game going or win. Because I'm going to then go and know I can go for it on fourth down on my own 18 if I have to, which the team that gets the ball to start overtime doesn't have to do. So the two rules proposal changes on this issue was tweeted out by NFL football operations today. One is the Colts and the Eagles getting together. How about it? A little Frank Reich connection back again? They just basically say allow both teams an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime. I don't like that again because it is now going to be beneficial for the team to get the ball second.
Right.
You know, I know if you're deferring and the other team scores a touchdown to win it, you know, that wouldn't be something you'd ever do. But now if I know I'm guaranteed a possession, you take it first. You take it first, and I'll put the pressure on the other team's coach to either kick a field goal. Now I know I've got to kick a field goal to at least continue it, or I can score a touchdown to win it. That does create some other issues when I get inside my opponent's 30 if I'm so fortunate, but I at least know what I got to do. Don't like it.
Don't like it.
I reject that out of hand. Now, the Titans got me to pause on their rule change proposal, which is both teams possess the ball in overtime unless the team that gets it first scores a touchdown and then gets a successful 2-point try.
I don't know about this either.
So you're now putting it on the coach to start overtime. Say you can win it by going for two. However, if you go for 2 and you don't get it, now I can win the game with a touchdown and an extra point. So I now know that secondarily.
See, I don't like that because the other team that stops you from getting the 2-point conversion, they should have to convert the 2-point conversion.
You should be forced to do the same thing.
Right, exactly. So they could suddenly now score a touchdown and just kick a field goal. Also, we just gave up 75 yards and you scored a touchdown on us. But we can keep this game going if we stop you from the 2-yard line.
Well, the first thing I thought of was, what are the odds of you converting a 2-point conversion in the NFL? Because you have to know that if you're going to vote on this or not.
They're high.
And so put it up, Hoskins. The last 5 seasons, the lowest percentage of a successful 2-point conversion league-wide was 2017, 43%. The next year, it was 50%. And the last 3 years, it's either 47 or 48%. Last year, if you round up, it's 49%. So half of the 2-point conversions work. Interestingly enough, what that means, if it's 50-50, you're taking the randomness of the coin toss being 50-50 on the front end of overtime and putting it on the back end. It's now a coin flip whether you score the 2-point conversion or win, but it still requires execution. It's not as simple as somebody flipping a coin up in the air. And it's just like, folks, if you're upset about the randomness of who gets the ball first, attach it to the opening coin toss. Thus, I know I've given up possession of the football to start overtime. I know it. And then maybe you just keep the rules as they are. You've just given up the randomness of the coin toss and stop the other team. So let's just say the Bills started the AFC Championship game. I don't know if they did or not with the football. I don't recall it. So then they would have given up the game tying score for overtime, and they had gotten the ball to start overtime. And had they scored a touchdown and Mahomes not got back on the field, then we'd have heard from the Chiefs again like we did a few years ago when Brady did it to them. And we didn't hear from the Chiefs this year because they did it to Allen.
Bills have the ball first.
There you go. So it would have removed this year's problem.
But I assume the KC won the toss.
Who the hell knows, man? I doubt Kansas City would put their defense out first against Josh Allen in that game. I don't know. That's our proposal. Put us on the competition committee. Because just saying both teams touch it without understanding what that means for strategy and the reality of it is absurd. Suddenly, you would not want to win the coin toss of overtime. You'd want it second. And then the other one is just like, okay, I'm going for it. I'm feeling really good. We're going to try for 2 to win it. What coach would do that? It's a coin flip that you don't want to start the game, but you're willing to do for this on the back end of overtime because there's an execution part of it. And there's a risk that if you don't get it, now the other team scores a touchdown, kicks an extra point, and wins it.
You know what team would go for 2 in overtime? The team that has Derrick Henry. Oh, right. They made the proposal.
Except the fact that team blew not 1 but 2 short yardage situations in their one-and-done playoff loss despite being the 1 seed, having Derrick Henry back.
Shrug emoji.
So, again, it's not a guarantee, which is why I like the Titans' proposal better than just, hey, let's just make sure both teams touch it. But just remove the randomness from the coin toss. I think that's what people have a problem with. Remove the randomness of who gets the ball first through the coin toss, is what I meant to say, to start overtime by folding it in to the decision to start the game. So at least everybody knows who gets it first and can score first a touchdown and win it first. And then just keep going. Like we have before. The whole idea of it's totally decided by a coin toss. Well, it was in the division round and then wasn't in the championship round in the same building involving the same home team 1 week apart. So
if the Chiefs had won,
twice in a row that way?
would there be a rule change?
But you have to be careful, too, because the knee-jerk reaction of what happened in the Superdome a few years ago led to an entire season of pass interference being challengeable, and it was a disaster.
Yep. Sometimes things are great as they are.
Or modified, thanks to the Rich Eisen Show, which should have its host on the competition committee. I just promoted myself figuratively by literally promoting myself.
Does that mean we get to go to the owners' meetings?
I think that's what it means, Mike. That is
No,
what it means.
you-
Owners' meetings
I'm
are
an
now
owner.
+2.
That's right.
Plus.
You should go with your.
So theoretically,
you should
we
go
might
with your
stop.
two pieces of Packer stock.
We're going.
You should knock on the door and just barge your way in. Hey, fellas,
I'm here.
I got 2 shares.
I'm
What
here.
do you mean? I don't got a seat at this table.
What are we doing?
Pay no mind list. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.